It's the new year, folks, and even though with a new year comes the chance to turn over a new leaf and strike out bad habits, government unions and their drama remains very much the same. While I hope you had a lovely Christmas and a joyful new year, we have a lot to catch up on. My name is Siena Rose, and this is the new Frontline podcast. If you've been up with the news recently, you'll know that the Chicago Teachers Union has been up to some especially questionable things right at the beginning of the new year. Particularly this headline from Fox News I found that said, Chicago Teachers Union promotes Venezuela regime change protests organized by socialist groups. And then the subheadline says, Chicago Teachers Union promoted rally organized by Answer Coalition and Party for Socialism and Liberation. Listen. It's not surprising at all that the CTU would outrightly support and instigate a socialist rally in response to the Venezuela situation and everything that's happened in that country. And we've been known already that CTU is full of radical socialists and communists who are so brainwashed to think that those things are somehow offering a better way of life. We already know that. But what's most bizarre about the situation is this. We know that Nicolas Maduro was/is a bona fide dictator in Venezuela, right? We know this. That's an undisputable fact. We know this through looking at the history of Venezuela and how Maduro has used socialism to confirm and maintain his reign in the country. None of that is what's up for debate. It's also very clear and not up for debate, the response from Venezuelans across the internet that they are thrilled that Maduro is being held responsible for his crimes, and they are very excited about the fact that socialism as a way of life is finally being challenged. But CTU, which is a collection of educators and teachers who we would hope know better and who also claim to care for our nation, have decided that that undisputable history is incorrect enough for them to protest in favor of Maduro. The same people who were chanting "No Kings" 6 months ago are now demanding that a dictator be released and that socialism be protected in a country that desperately wants to eradicate it. This is outright proof that one of the most influential unions in the country is not concerned with the needs of their members or even the basics of world history and cause and effect in world history, but the fact that they will always choose the radical, illogical, controversial stance because it will gain them more points in this political social justice race that they're so dead set on running. It actually makes me sick. Not even to mention how unbelievably ironic it is that CTU would attack Donald Trump for acting as a king in their No Kings protests, and 6 months later defend a real-life dictator who we know used his military to attack and maim his own citizens. Like, how is this real life? There are a lot of questions that CTU needs to answer about their very clear moral depravity. And when we look back at their history, the entire union's history, it becomes clear that though this is shocking, it's not necessarily surprising. I recently discovered Illinois Policy's film called Local 1, The Rise of America's Most Powerful Teachers Union. It's a full-length film. I'll link it in the YouTube description. I highly recommend if you want to learn more about CTU or if you've seen their clips that we posted on our social media, look more into it. It's a great film because it is a deep dive into the union's history, their origins, and their present-day power structure that allows them to be a unbridled vessel of hatred and extremism that they are now today. Like I said, we posted a few clips from this film on our social media because people need to be clear-eyed about the real danger of unions like CTU that are allowed political power, endless amounts of money, and uninhibited cultural influence the way CTU has today. Because we know it's not going to stop with supporting a socialist criminal dictator. It didn't stop when they were laundering many millions of dollars and committing financial audit fraud, basically. And it also didn't even stop when they hosted a communist convention that allowed pro-terrorism activists to speak to their teachers. That's right. Back in November, I found an organization called the Navi K-12 Extremism Tracker who posted a headline that read, Chicago Teachers Union hosts communist convention featuring pro-Hamas activists. I regret to inform you that this is 100% real. Back in November of 2025, CTU hosted something called the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. Give me a break. And at that convention, they allowed guests to speak who, quote, denied Israel's right to exist, who, quote, praised Hamas and armed resistance, and who blamed and demonized the United States' role in such affairs. They are so dead set on making the United States seem like the epicenter of all evil. And this article, if you choose to read it, I'll link it again in the YouTube description. is very long and honestly quite upsetting to read. It minces no words. It is full of the most hateful, anti-Semitic, mind-numbing, brainwashing propaganda you could imagine. It has pictures and screenshots and videos that the investigative team found when they looked into the story. It minces no words. It tells you what happened, and it shows you a video or a picture of somebody saying the things that the article is reporting on with all of the CTU and everything convention branding behind them. It is ridiculous. All of it, which paints a very overwhelming, clear picture that the CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, is part of the regime that's rising in America that calls for a radical, non-metaphorical agenda to rise and take power by any means necessary from, in their eyes, the evil, Zionist, fascist United States. It is simply despicable. And it's being funded by your tax dollars. It's being taught to our teachers, who will then teach it to our children. No longer do we exist in a culture where these social justice ideas are passing fads that can enter and exit culture without hurting anyone, but that these ideas are not only capable of killing a man in cold blood, but of attacking and destroying an entire way of life. I don't mean to fearmonger, and I really hate to start off an episode being so pessimistic like this, but oh my goodness, 2026 must be a year of change in a way that has been like no other. This danger is not only happening in Chicago, but it's happening across the entire nation. Like a trail of breadcrumbs, we can follow this exact issue and moral depravity rot to the East Coast. In New Jersey, Sean Spiller recently announced his bid to run for National Education Association president. According to a news source called the New Jersey Globe, quote, former NJEA President Sean Spiller is launching a challenge to the incumbent president of the National Education Association in their 2026 leadership election, close quote. Sean Spiller, his name may or may not be familiar to you, but he led the New Jersey Education Association, the NJEA, from 2021 to 2025. Also in 2025, he ran for New Jersey governor and finished with an embarrassingly low support percentage of 10.6%, despite the fact that he used his position as NJEA president to wire an estimated $40 million from his union to support his political campaign. Now those $40 million are rightfully the subject of a lawsuit because NJEA's members, when they signed up to the union, they did not consent to have their money be spent on Sean Spiller's political campaign, yet that's what the money ended up being used for. The corrupt Sean Spiller also joins current NEA Vice President Princess Moss, insane name for a grown woman, by the way, and the president of Connecticut Education Association, a woman named Kate Dias, who are also running for NEA president. Details other than that are not super relevant. The fact is that none of these people, least of all Sean Spiller, should be given the authority to run an organization like the NEA. We need to ask ourselves that if Sean Spiller was willing to spend $40 million of his members' money on his personal political campaign, what else is he willing to do to get what he wants? Probably a lot. And I'm willing to bet that Princess Moss and Kate Dias, who are already high up the chain in their own respective union industries, are no better than him. I've said this before, but the political left in America are enamored with shoving down our throats this idea that capitalism is bad and personal success is bad and nobody should be rich because being rich is innately evil and bad and selfish. But somehow all of those moral quandaries disappear when you funnel that money through a union. Sean Spiller, if we're going to call rich people corrupt, is as corrupt as any of them. He's not any better because he happens to be the president of a union. He's actually definitely worse because he's using money that was put towards one thing and spending it towards something entirely else. And this rings true in every single union scenario. The NEA rakes in $384 million a year. Becky Pringle gets paid $500,000 a year to go on TV shows and run her mouth. But of course, that's okay. However, when it's a hardworking entrepreneur with a profitable business, suddenly it's selfish and time to eat the rich. How does any of this make sense? Trick question, actually, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. And even unions in the Golden State of California, who are all the way on the other side of the country, are engaging in this wonky, backwards thinking to justify a particular targeting of the upper class. A new proposal backed by the Service Employees International Union, United Healthcare Workers West, would impose a one-time 5% tax on the assets of California residents that are worth more than $1 billion. According to a Fox Business article, supporters of the proposal, which are the unions, say that, quote, the revenue could help offset federal funding cuts for healthcare, close quote. You can go through and read the rest of the article, linked in YouTube description, of course, but it's full of entrepreneurs and businessmen in California that were interviewed calling absolute BS on this proposal. They have already paid a monstrous amount of taxes on their businesses to be in California, and so they understandably are threatening to leave California should the proposal go through. I bring this article up, first of all, because I think it's really interesting and important to look at the outward effects of what the union can influence, specifically the political power that they wield, which in this case is enough to bring a proposal that is targeted on billionaires and entrepreneurs who have nothing to do with the union, to bring a proposal all the way up to the governor's desk. And also that their greed is not just confined to their members' money. It's not just looking at how many people they can possibly get organized to get more member dues out of them, but also to the fact that their greed will point them towards every red dime they can get their hands on. Government unions like this, like the SEIU and the CTU and the NJEA and the NEA, cannot operate authentically and objectively for what their members need when there's this intrinsic corruption of greed that is ingrained in their very system. And we can try all we want to fix this problem retroactively and put Band-Aids on the issues and on the problems, but the problems themselves still remain, which is the fact that absolute power and unending money will every single time corrupt absolutely. And the perfect example of this is these government unions, the power that they wield, the influence they've been able to gain, and what they're trying to change and push us towards. Freedom Foundation works so hard for exactly this reason. And it's another reason why you, as a news consumer and consumer of this podcast and readers of these articles on your own, are so important to the fight as well. Because unions want us to believe that none of this is related, that they're just focusing on their own little particular thing, and that their influence is not as big and not as crazy and political as it seems, but it absolutely is. We are sitting in a pot, and they are slowly bringing the water up to boil, thinking that we won't notice. The end goal that they're steering us towards is not worker freedom or success or any other stupid piece of propaganda they're going to tell you, but it is their own brand of dictatorship disguised to look harmless until it isn't. This is why the work is so important and why we are committed more than ever to doing the work of exposing government unions and helping public workers opt out in the year of 2026. Thanks for watching the new Frontline podcast. Hit that subscribe or follow button to stay up to date on every episode we post, and drop a comment down below. Do you agree, or is there something we missed?